Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Anne Beggs, and I head up InvestNI's International and Skills Group, and I'd like to welcome you all to this webinar on trading with the US this morning, where we're going to talk through the recent and ongoing tariff changes that have been announced and how these impact when exporting goods to and from and importing goods from the US. Before I introduce the speakers, I have a few pieces of kind of housekeeping to run through. So just so you know, this webinar will be recorded, and we will be uploading it onto our website to make it available for others to view after the live session this morning. All of the mics will be muted other than for our speakers today. Cameras will also be off during the presentations to allow for the maximum screen size for the slides so you can get all that detail. Our speakers will all be on camera during the Q&A session later, so you can put a face to the name then. Questions can be typed into the chat function for this webinar. I would ask that you try to make your questions as general as you can, as it's difficult to answer company or product specific questions without having detailed information on company procedures, supply chains, etc. And where there are common themes across the questions coming in, we will group these as best we can to enable us to address as many questions as possible this morning. If we're unable to get through all of the questions, we will endeavour to have these answered by the panel after the event. And again, these will be posted on our website. So just by way of context, as undoubtedly you're all too aware, once again, our manufacturing businesses are facing challenging times. Having navigated the COVID pandemic and Brexit, we now find ourselves in a situation where global trade is facing another period of disruption. So not that it's much consolation, but we're not alone in this. But the difficulty is that there's no real line of sight to when this period of uncertainty will end, and indeed what's coming next. So just last Tuesday, we had the delaying of US country-specific reciprocal tariffs, an announcement, and then a pause of EU countermeasures, and then an escalation of the trade conflict between China and the US. The US is Northern Ireland's second largest export market, with manufacturing exports reaching almost £1.7 billion worth in 2024. Machinery and transport equipment make up almost 50% of this, with medicinal and pharma products making up a further 30%. We also, as a region, import just over £750 million worth of goods from the US, making it our third largest market for imports after Ireland and China. It's vital, therefore, that we understand the implications of the current range of tariffs already in play, those planned or those paused or delayed. They have implications for both our exports and our imports, and we now appear to have at least a little breathing space from the EU to consider, whilst the EU considers its appropriate response. And we need to make best use, I guess, of this breathing space. We are, of course, part of the UK customs territory, and therefore, from an export perspective, tariffs imposed on the UK will apply on our exported goods. And we'll hear shortly about US origin requirements, which will be key in ensuring the correct tariff is paid. From an import perspective, the Windsor Framework will apply. So this brings the at-risk goods into play and the need for us to understand what countermeasures the EU may introduce on US imports, as they will apply here in Northern Ireland. But whilst we may have that brief reprieve as the EU ponders its next steps, this is a vital time for us all to understand and navigate the rules of origin landscape. And given indeed the numbers we know are attending today's session and the feedback we've had from companies over the past number of days, it's clear that this is a very pressing matter for many businesses across Northern Ireland. So I'm delighted that we're joined this morning by two experts in international trade. We'll hear firstly this morning from Dr. Anna Jurzyska, who's an old friend of InvestNI and has come through another period of uncertainty and worked with us in recent years as the UK and EU negotiated its post-Brexit trading arrangements and all of the outworkings of that for Northern Ireland. Anna is a globally recognised customs, trade facilitation and international trade advisor with over 18 years of experience. She is the founder and director of Trade and Borders and has worked extensively both in and with the private and public sectors. So Anna will talk to us today on the current state of play with US tariffs and how these impact on exporting goods to the US, including the need to address non-preferential rules of origin. Anna will then be followed by Jonathan Walsh from Fortior Insight. Fortior is based in Downpatrick, and Jonathan is similarly steeped in international trade and in particular Northern Ireland's post-Brexit trading environment. Jonathan is also currently working with us as we develop our assets around promoting dual market access, and will bring us up to speed this morning on both the UK and the EU's response to the US tariffs and how they may impact when importing US goods into Northern Ireland. So after Anna and Jonathan have presented, we'll then move into a Q&A session, which will be chaired by Peter Curran. Peter is the head of our dual market access unit. So please do submit your questions on the chat function, and we will endeavour to get through as many of these as possible this morning. So thank you again for joining us. I hope you get a lot out of the session this morning, and I will now hand over to Anna.